in advance. I apologize in advance. I'm going to turn on host only just for about a couple minutes here. But I do have just a little 10-question quiz, and some of it is as simple as how do you write a ratio? And remember 3 ways to write a ratio. I'm going to turn on the chat real quick. Go ahead and punch in how to write a ratio in the chat. Just to remember, there are 3 different ways you can write a ratio. Yes, you can use a colon, just like Lavisa said. Yes, you can use the word to. And Angie, yes, you also have the slash. Oh yeah, some of you put all 3 in there. Boy, you guys are fast typists. Yes, thank you very much. Those are all different ways you can write a ratio. And remember, a ratio is just, I'm going to turn it off so it doesn't slow down the video now. A ratio is just a comparison of numbers or a relationship between numbers. And there are a few questions, just a couple questions also about solving equivalent ratios, making sure you understand equivalent ratios. Now, this quiz is posted in Google Classroom, and it is on Edulastic. It's posted in your Google Classroom, and it's on Edulastic. So if you go to your Google Classroom, to the classwork tab, it's the second click. If you click on, it says 6.6, representing ratios and rates. And there's a quiz there, and it has the link for you just to get there quickly and easily. So please go take that quiz. I just want to see how well you guys are understanding rates and ratios. There are 10 questions, and that is your math for today. And again, if you've been taking tests all morning, then I apologize for another math test, but this one should be easy and very focused. If you've been paying attention over the past 2 weeks, then it should not take you very long. So 10-question quiz on Edulastic. If you have questions, my chat is open, but I will not give you answers to the quiz questions. So if you have specific questions, I can do my best to help you out. All right, and go. I'm just gonna say 20 minutes on this thing. So by 9:30, we should be done with math. That way we can either push on through with writing and reading. I don't know if we can get done early today to let test takers continue to work. But that's my goal, is to finish quickly.
My time, I will have about.
Then that will give us some time at the end to continue working on iReady status.
I'm trying to take attendance too, so I might holler out for some of my kids.
Okie dokie. I'm gonna pause the recording.
Okay. You guys, we've been looking at excuse me. I need more coffee. We have been looking at that story, Count Your Blessings. And we're on our 3rd day, which means this is the day where we do a response to the literature. We write a little bit about the story. But I want to do something a little bit beforehand, because what I'm going to ask you to write about is something a little bigger and something we haven't quite looked at. We've hit all around it, but we haven't addressed this yet. And that is the purpose of the author. Now, anytime that we look at any piece of literature, any piece of informational writing, anything that is a letter that's written to you, even a text that is sent to you, they are all sent with purpose. If they're not sent with purpose, they don't mean anything, do they? So when authors write something, put the letters to the page, they're doing it with a specific purpose in mind. Now, they might not do a good job with this. They might get distracted and they might incorporate many, many different things in it, but they write with a purpose. And it's usually one single purpose. And if you can find out what that single purpose is, it's going to help you understand a lot about what the author is trying to say. And so one of the genres that is, it shows absolutely tremendously, perfectly, it just capsulizes the idea of purpose behind the writing is the genre called fables. Now, a fable is where an animal or some other inanimate object takes on human personalities and kind of goes through a human predicament. And then at the end, we have a lesson. So I'm going to read you. This is an old book. It's called Aesop's Tales. And old books, don't be afraid to pick up old books. Look, old books are like old restaurants. They're like old people. You know, they all have their distinct flavor or smell, but, you know, they're worthwhile. So go ahead and read these, okay? And this is a story that is, I think that you will see what I mean when it talks about the purpose and what's behind it. Okay, I'm going to end with that one. I had one. Okay, here it is. The story is called The Ant and the Dove. A thirsty ant went to the river to drink. To reach the river, he had to climb down the steep bank on a blade of grass. Halfway down, he slipped and he fell into the swirling waters. A dove, perched in a nearby tree, saw the ant's desperate plight. Quickly, she plucked a leaf from the tree and dropped it into the river, close to the ant. The ant was able to climb up on the leaf and float safely to shore. As soon as he was on dry land, the ant saw a hunter of birds hiding behind a tree with a net in his hand. Seeing that the dove was in danger, he crawled up to the hunter and bit him on the heel. The startled hunter dropped his net and the dove flew off. The dove, perched safely in the tree, called down to the ant, "Thank you, my little friend." "Not at all," said the ant. "One good turn deserves another." And that's the end. Now, fables are, by their structure, always put the purpose at the very, very end. They illustrate it before, and at the end, they give the purpose. One good turn deserves another. The purpose of this story, written by Aesop, was to teach that very, very basic lesson of life. One good turn deserves another. I want to read you two more. This one's a little longer, not much. And fables tend to be fairly short, okay? This one's called The Miller, His Son, and Their Donkey. One hot day, a miller and his son were taking their donkey to a neighboring fair to sell him. They'd not gone far when they met some girls on the road talking and laughing. "Look there," cried one of the girls, pointing at them. "What fools you are to be trudging along the hot road while you could be riding." So the miller sat his son upon the donkey and walked along by his side. Presently, they came upon a group of old men who were engaged in serious conversation. One of the men looked up and said, "See that? It just proves what I was saying. No one has any respect for old age anymore. Imagine that lazy boy riding while his poor old father walks. Get down, you lazy loafer. Let the old man rest his weary legs." Hearing this, the miller made his son dismount and got on the donkey back himself. Thus they continued on their way. His son walking, the old miller riding, until they met a group of women and children. "Why, you horrid old man," one of the women cried, "how can you ride upon a donkey while the poor little lad can hardly keep up with you?" The miller gave thought to this and then picked up his son and placed the boy behind him on the donkey's back. The miller and his son were riding into town when a passing villager called out, "For shame! Surely that donkey is not your own." The miller assured him it was. "I never would have thought so by the way the poor beast is loaded. Why, you two fellows do not look sick to me. Surely you are better able to carry that donkey than the donkey is to carry both of you." So the miller and his son dismounted. They tied the donkey's legs together with some cord and strung him over a pole. And with the pole across their shoulders, they walked over a bridge that led to town. Townsfolk had never seen such a funny sight, and they laughed loudly. The noise so frightened the poor animal that he began to wiggle and kick. The cords that bound him snapped, and the donkey tumbled from the pole into the river. Sadly, the old miller and his son walked all the way home. The miller was thinking to himself, when you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. So you see the purpose, the lesson, don't you? In the very, very end of this. That's what makes fables so good. Let's see if I can, there was one more I was going to read. Okay, this one's short. It's called The Man and the Lion. A man and a lion were traveling together through the forest. They began to argue as to who was the stronger, the man or the lion. In the midst of their quarrel, they passed a stone statue which showed a man struggling or strangling a lion. There, said the man, pointing to the statue, see how strong man is? Does this not prove that I am right? The lion chuckled. Ah, he said, but this statue was made by a man. If we lions knew how to build statues, you would see that man under the paw of that lion. You see, how a story ends often depends on the storyteller. Ah, that's a good lesson for us to learn when we read. So, listen, the person writing and their point of view, what they want to impart, what they want to teach, and maybe even about life or even something so simple, what their purpose is in writing is something we need to pay attention to. Now I'm going to share with you my screen. Mrs. Digby, I sent to you a document. Okay, thank you so much. And let me check something. Let's see if I can find it. Well, it's posted on your assignment page, and it's called Count Your Blessings, Response to Literature. Okay, count your blessings. And you need to go there and you need to pull it up now. Son of a gun. Sorry, guys, I'll be right with you in just a second. Okay. Now, some of you have already gone there and you've already tried to write it, but I hope our little discussion would have helped you some beforehand. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. It's posted on our assignment page. Here's the question. In the story, Count Your Blessings, the main character learns something about life. What is it? How important is this lesson to you? Where in your life have you experienced something similar? Is this a universal lesson, something we should all learn? Or is it specific only to blessing? Okay? Now, guys, all we want, listen, your teachers grade generously on this. We all desire and want good sentences. We all desire that you punctuate, put a period at the end of a sentence, and they use correct spelling, okay? We also want you to use your mind and think about these questions and answer them. But this doesn't have to be long, but it is a paragraph. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions given to you. That should be enough. If you just answer those questions, you should have enough, and you should come to the very, very place where you understand what the author was trying to get across to us. Okay? So right now, Ms. Bragg, Mrs. Digby, Mr. Hartman, how much time should we give them to work on this?
That is completely your call. What are you thinking time wise? Think 20?
20 minutes, if not 30.
Okay, let's go ahead and give him 30.
So we'll go to, guys, we'll go to 10:30. You need to get this done today. This is not something you put off. Okay? You need to get it done today. And listen, if you give it a good thought, if you give good thought, use good structure, you do all the things that we expect you to do as 6th and 5th graders, as writers, you're going to get a good score. So don't sweat that. You just need to try. Okay, let's go ahead and work on this now. And I'm going to stop sharing.
All right. Let's go to, actually, I'm gonna stop sharing this real quick. Everything. Dialed in here. Oh, no. Okay. Okay, today's lesson, your code for joinpd.com is go ahead and share that momentarily here. Here, there's your code. So we're going to talk about transitions a little bit today. Shouldn't take us too terribly long, probably about 20 minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and get started, huh? Okay, so we've been talking about feelings and emotions in narrative writing and sort of how there are direct and indirect reflections and showing and not telling. And then today, we're going to talk about transition words, phrases, and devices. So we talked a little bit about sort of what are transitions. And the key point that I want to make today is that a transition in narrative writing is any word, phrase, or device, and you can see what's underlined here, moves the reader forward in time or orients the reader in time. So when we talk about transitions, sometimes we have probably the simplest, the most basic, the thing that we're most familiar with are transition words like first, next, then. And then we have transitional phrases like when we arrived, later on, at the end of the day, etc. So those are the transition words and phrases that we're probably most familiar with. So, but the key thing that you need to remember there is it moves the reader forward in time or it orients the reader in time. So it's giving us, it's letting us know where we are in sort of like a, in terms of future, past, present. It's just letting us know where we're at, where we're going. Okay, dynamic symmetry we'll talk about a little bit later. But here is where you guys come in. Okay, in this particular passage right here, there are some transition words and phrases. And I want you to write those in the response box below. So remember, we are looking for a word or phrase that moves the reader forward in time or orients the reader in time. So that's what we're looking for. So I want you to So the first one, and I'll give this one to you, is in the spring of 1996. So that would be the first thing that you write. Now, there are a couple of more in this particular passage, and these are just 2 sentences of a longer passage. But in the response box, I want you to type in the spring of 1996, and then see if you can identify another transition word or phrase and type it in the box, and I'll give you 2 minutes. So remember, you're looking for words or phrases that move the reader forward in time or orient the reader in time. So that's what we're looking for. So we should all have typed in the spring of 1996. That's one. And there's a couple more. Okay, see how we do here. In the spring of 1996, okay, correct. In the afternoon is another one, this one here, and during physical education class. Whoever this person is here nailed it exactly. So good. So in the spring of 1996, again, that orients us in time. In the afternoon during physical education class. Okay, so good, good, good. So if we're looking at, we've got this here in the spring of 1996. And we also have in the afternoon during physical education class. And that is it for that particular section. So in the spring of 1996, in the afternoon during physical education class. So those are embedded transition. Those are transitions that we wouldn't look at and go, oh, that's pretty obvious. First, next, last, whatever, finally. Considerably more subtle. So, but you get the idea. Okay, let's move on to the next section. Okay, so again, we're looking for something that moves the reader forward in time or orients the reader in time. And I'll give you a clue. There are two words and one phrase. 2 words and 1 phrase in this passage that we're looking for. So 2 singular transition words and 1 phrase. So see if you can spot the 2 transition words and the 1 phrase in this particular passage. And again, I'll give us about 2 minutes. So again, we're looking for 2 singular transition words and 1 transitional phrase here in this particular passage. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. So for this particular passage here, we're looking at when. So when the 2 captains chose their teams, they always chose the other boys first. So Ted and I waited until the very end to be chosen. So when is the first. When the 2 captains chose their teams, they always chose the other boys first. So Ted and I waited until the very end to be chosen. So the 2 singular transition words that we're looking here that move us forward in time or orient us in time. When the 2 captains chose their teams, they always chose the other boys first. So when, so, and after all the other players. Or if you had all the other players had batted, I would take that too. So that's another one that is sort of moving us forward in time, orienting us in time. So if you had when, so, and after all the other players or after all the other players had batted, you're right on target. So don't worry about this. If you're not getting these, it's fine. It just, again, it takes repetitions. It just takes, you just have to look at a few of these to sort of get your bearings and the main thing is the whole point of transitions is just to move your story forward. So don't overthink it too much. I'm just kind of doing this as an exercise to get us acquainted. So let's try this section here. So clues. For this particular section, one transitional phrase, one transition word, one transitional phrase, one transition word. we'll take another minute here. So one transitional phrase, one transition word. I'd like to see 50 responses. So I don't, you know, whether or not you get it correct, not concerned with that. I just want to see people giving it a genuine effort. So if you're there and you're just sort of being tentative about it, I get it, totally understand, but just put it out there. You know, there's no names, there's no, there's a lot to be said for effort. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. 42. So eight more people. Just take a guess. We're looking for one transitional phrase and one transition word. Okay. Here, we're looking for as my teammates urged me to try for a walk. So as my teammates would be the first one. That would be the transitional phrase. And then so would be the transitional word. So if you've noticed, if you're paying attention and you're looking for patterns, you'll notice that we've seen so as a transition word several times. Now, that's not typically a word that we would associate with transition. But for instance, when you know, Mr. Mullen has had us write somebody wanted but so summaries. So we have our main character, we have their want or their goal, the but or the problem, and then the so, which is the resolution, which is sort of the you know, tying everything up and bringing things everything together at the end. So for this particular one, we're looking for as my teammates, and so those as my teammates, the transitional phrase, so the transition word. Okay, so we've got a couple more. So for those of you who responded, cool. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see what we got here. Yeah. So yeah, as my teammates urged me to try for a walk, so I kept my eyes. Yeah, that's right on the right track. You're on the right track. Good. So, good, good, good. Yeah, we're on the right track. We're on the right track here. We are not terribly off base here at all. So like I said, it's just the whole point of an embedded transition is just to move the story forward, to orient your reader in time. And what's slick about an embedded transition is it keeps the reader knowing they're sort of you're propelling them forward in the story in the moment, and they don't even realize it's happening. So this is pretty high level stuff. This is the last we're going to do with transitions for a while, but it's one of those things, people who take their writing seriously, this is one of those things that if you can master, you know, you get to middle school, high school, college, your professors they'll recognize that. They should. Okay, here we go. Here's the next section. I believe we have 3 more. So for this right here, one, let's see, 2, one transitional phrase, two transition words. So one transitional phrase and two transition words. So again, we're looking for words or phrases that indicate time. Moving forward in time, orienting us in time. Okay, so what I want you to do right now, those of you who are typing, cool, continue typing. I'd like to get to 50, but if you had to guess right now, what would it be? I need one phrase, one transitional phrase, two words, two transition words. So if you came up with that snap judgment right away, after waiting would be your transitional phrase, then instantly and as. Okay, instantly. So after waiting for just the right second, I stepped in and swung the bat with all my might. Instantly, the ball flew over the right fielder's head as I ran past first base and on to second. So all of those have to do with either moving the story forward or orienting the reader in time. So like I said, these embedded transitions are pretty slick. It's sort of like, for those of you who are familiar with construction, and not that I'm like by any means an expert in this field, but when you look at your wall or look at the walls in your house, most walls are textured, which means that they have sort of this, there's a texture to them. It's like, it's not just the paint. There's sort of like these little bumps. They're smooth, but the wall is textured. Well, if you look underneath that, if you look at the drywall, there are seams that hold the drywall together. And then you'll putty over these seams, and then you don't want to put too much because you'll create a mess if you do, but then you sand over those seams, then you add the texture, then you add the paint. But when you look at the wall, so like the walls in your house, there's multiple drywall sheets that will comprise a wall, but you don't see the seams. You just see one big wall. That's sort of what embedded transitions are. So it's sort of like, it takes those seams and hides them. You don't really see them. So something like this, after waiting for just the right second, I stepped in and swung the bat with all my might. Instantly, the ball flew over the right fielder's head as I ran past first base. Okay, all of this is moving the story forward. Okay, let's do a couple more and then we'll wrap it up for the day. All right. 2. No, let's see. 3 transitional phrases. 3 transitional phrases, and this is the last one. So 3 transitional phrases, what are they? I'd like to see 50 people respond. So 3 transitional phrases. Again, we're focused on time. So looking at this, what would you say? All right, we're getting there, 34. If you have later in the game, that's one of the 3. So if you have later in the game, you are 100% on target. So there's 2 more. Okay, 39. Like to get to 50 if we could. Just take a guess. Later in the game is 1. What do we got here? Later in the game is 1. When it was my time is the other. And then from then on. Okay. Yeah, this is where we're right on target here. You know, we didn't have the phrases. I was looking for the phrases, not the words, but you were right on target with identifying the words. Good, good, good. So let's go back and look. So the phrase is later in the game. So that orients us in time. That lets us know that what the event that's happening is happening later in the game. Later in the game, when it was my time to bat once again. So later in the game, when it was my time, I made it to third base on my hit. From then on, I was not the last one chosen for the team. So from then on is another one of those slick, sort of hidden, embedded transitions. From then on, I was not the last one chosen for the team. So that is pretty much it as far as like reviewing the transition words and phrases. Dynamic symmetry is something that we're going to look at. And when we come back, we're going to look at how we can add some transitions. And then we're going to work on something called zap, which is, you know, we're looking for three pluses. So does it have a zoom? Does it zoom into a narrow focus? Does it have feelings, intermittent reflections? Does it use embedded transitions? And then the zap is where we eliminate sort of irrelevant. It's when we cut irrelevant information, just information that's extraneous that we don't need. So we'll work on that when we come back. But if you have an idea of what an embedded transition looks like now, and you know, you just have an idea, you'll be fine. So when we come back, we're going to kind of tie some things together and do some more revision. So we're going to make sure that we know how to bring things into a narrow focus, that we're adding intermittent reflections in our writing, that we're using embedded transitions, and we're getting rid of irrelevant information in our writing, okay? Which we can do oftentimes with our graphic organizers. All right, guys, so no homework. Only half of us would do it anyway, so there's that. But like I said, not a particularly fun or any entertaining one, but necessary. So thanks for bearing with me on that one, guys. And we're pretty much, that's it. And I know there's some people who need to finish their math, and I even have a person who still needs to finish the reading diagnostic. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Mrs. Digby. Anyone out there, feel free.